Good morning, students. Today I shall continue with the topic which is errors and exceptions in Java that I have already discussed in my previous presentation. So let us continue with the handling of exceptions in Java. In Java, exception is an object that describes an exceptional condition that has occurred in a piece of code during execution. When an exceptional condition arises, an object representing that exception is created and thrown in the method that caused the error, which describes source and region of exception. That method may choose to handle the exception itself or pass it on. Either way, at some point, the exception is caught and processed. Exceptions can be generated by the Java runtime system, or they can be manually generated by the code. Now I shall explain this with the help of the Java try and catch block. Now if you see the syntax, there is a try block and there is a catch block. There are statements to be executed inside the try block, and as well as there are statements to be executed inside the catch block. Now if for any reason an exception occurs while executing the statements in the try block, that exception shall be handled in the catch block. In Java, exception handling is implemented using 5 keywords. Those are try, catch, throw, throws, and finally. Here is the general form of an exception handling block. At first, there is a try block, which comprises of a set of Java statements. Each of these Java statements shall be checked and analyzed by the compiler for errors or exceptions. And if for any reason an exception or an error is detected in one of the statements by the compiler, then the control will shift from the try block immediately into the catch block. And then it will skip the remaining statements in the try block. Once the control shifts from the try block into the catch block, skipping the remaining statements in the try block, then the statements inside the catch block shall get executed, which will then display the error message or the exception message connected with the statement inside the try block, where the compiler detected the error or the exception. Then there is another block known as the finally block. The statements inside the finally block shall get executed irrespective of whether an exception has been detected in the try block or not. Whether the program executes successfully or with errors, the statements inside the finally block shall always get executed. Program statements that may cause an exception are contained within a try block. That is this block. Let me highlight it. If any exception occurs within the try block, it is thrown. The catch block followed by the try block handles the exception in some rational manner. So if an exception occurs within the try block, it is thrown into the catch block, which then handles the exception in some rational manner. If you want, there are some codes which must be executed whether exception occurs or not. Put them in a finally block. That is this block. Let me highlight it. So the statements inside this finally block shall get executed irrespective of whether the statements inside the try block have been encountered with an error or not. So whether the program executes successfully or not, the statements inside the finally block are bound to get executed. System-generated exceptions are automatically thrown by the Java runtime system. User-defined exceptions can be thrown using the throw keyword. An exception that is thrown out of a method must be specified as such by throws clause. Some of the rules that govern exception handling are: the first one is there must be a catch or a finally block after each try block. As you can see here in the syntax, there is a catch block and there is a finally block after the try block. Now see the second point. There can be more than one catch block for a single try block. As you can see here in the syntax, there is a catch block for this try block. But it is also possible that there can be multiple catch block for this try block. That means there can even be more than one catch block for this try block. Then see the third point, the try block can be nested. Now again, if you see the syntax here, notice the try block. Okay, there is only one try block shown in this syntax, but it is also possible that multiple try blocks can be nested within each other. Then come to the fourth point, the type of exception object in catch block must match the thrown object. That means if any exception occurs, then the type of exception object in the catch block must match the thrown object in the try block. So with this, I end my presentation here. And that's all for today.